Hey there, Twins fans. My name is Seth Stowes of Twins Daily, twinsdaily.com. We're trying something a little bit different here. We're going to try to have more frequent guests, shorter interviews, and we're just going to call it Talking with whoever the person happens to be. And for this show today, we are going to talk with the radio voice, the director of media relations, but you hear him online now on MILB.TV and wherever else you listen to your minor league games from. He's the voice of the Fort Myers Mighty Mussels. His name is John Vittas, and we will spend some time chatting with him today. John, welcome, and how are you doing down in Southwest Florida?
Thank you, Seth. Yeah, I'm doing great. Getting ready for an exciting couple of weeks here. We're going on the road. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start a little bit with your background. You've been with the Mussels now for 4 years, since 2021. Before that, I know you were in the Rays system. Tell us a little bit about your background, and I know you do other sports in the winter as well.
Yeah, I definitely stay busy and call games 12 months a year. So I went to the University of Maryland, got my broadcasting degree there. Worked at MLB Network doing graphics for a year, then number 2 job with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans in the Cubs system for a year, and then got the lead job with the Charlotte Stone Crabs of the Rays organization, where I was for 3.5 years until COVID hit. And then when coming out of COVID, when teams were kind of building back up their front offices, I was fortunate enough to get this full-time job here at Hammond Stadium with the Minnesota Twins to work in their organization. And so I am full-time with the Mussels, doing some corporate sales in the off season, in addition to broadcasting and media relations. And like you mentioned, plenty of college basketball and college volleyball in the off season at Florida Gulf Coast University. Their games are on ESPN Plus. And then a lot of tournaments that come through. We've got some great high school and college tournaments throughout the entire year. Basketball in November and December. And then we've actually got some postseason baseball here, both at the college and high school level here in May. So I am 200 plus games of play-by-play a year, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's fantastic. So a typical day, a home game or road game, if there's a huge difference, but how early do you get to the ballpark for a night game, and kind of what are some of the things that you're responsible for throughout the day?
Yeah, so I arrive usually around 11 a.m. on a game day for a 7 o'clock game. Used to be earlier, but we've been able to streamline some things. A lot of organizations have their full timers come in even earlier than that, but we're usually 11. We do a meeting right away when the day starts to go over everything that's going on that day, so the front office is all on the same page, and then we kind of go our separate ways. So I'm responsible for. I'm by the printer a lot. I'm printing rosters, game notes, stat packs for the coaches. Whatever other publications there are, lineups, sheets, and that we print those for the fans. We print those for the media, everybody up in the press box, PA announcers, scorekeepers, everybody. Also responsible for some pre-production with the broadcast. So we get our graphics in line. We get our sponsorship elements in line. My broadcast partner, Andrew Pauling, comes in the afternoons, and we're constantly working on getting the broadcast ready, getting our scorecards ready, coordinating any interviews, whether it's us doing the interview or outside media coming in to talk to players. We usually hope to have time to go down to batting practice and hang out with the guys while they're on the field and doing their pregame work and getting to watch some of the tools that you might not see in the game, but you might see in batting practice or an infield, outfield defensive session. So we get the best feel possible of the team. And then, we go live at 6:45, so 20 minutes before first pitch with our pregame show. And we're fortunate this year to be streaming both video and audio.
I was going to have that one question for now, but I'm going to follow up with that. What has been the response that you've been receiving to being on MILB.TV now this year? It's exciting for me being so far away, but what type of feedback and how does that make your job any different, if at all?
It definitely makes my job busier in terms of the planning. I was in charge of the project of getting all the equipment on site, taking quotes, taking presentations from different companies that wanted to broadcast our games. So that was a lot of like the planning up to this part. On the day-to-day basis, it's mostly just writing the scripts, making sure our 2 or 3 sponsored elements are planned out correctly. But otherwise, once we've built out a bigger staff, we've got to get camera operators now, and we've got some behind the scenes folks with social media and video that are kind of under my umbrella of management here. But once that's all set, which it is now, on a average Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, middle of the series, it's pretty straightforward to what I've done in the past, just making sure everybody's there and ready to go. And all the planning's been done, because when we're calling the games, really the only difference is I have a monitor now with video, so I can kind of see the movement on the pitches and whatever the director decides to show, whatever camera he decides to take. But I don't call the games too differently. I would say I'm maybe a smidge less descriptive than I was on radio, but for the most part, you still have to be pretty descriptive, because there are people tuned into our audio only stream. So there are still people listening to it as a radio broadcast. So I still call it a little bit closer to radio, but the overall biggest difference is that we're also on video, and I get to see the video while we're on air.
Absolutely. And I, shout out to your social media staff, because you're doing a great job with the video, in game and then after games and things like that. It's really nice to be able to see those key plays and be able to, for instance, on Twins Daily, we have our daily minor league report, to be able to put that into that report and have our fans, your fans, be able to put a face in a form to these names that are otherwise just in a box score, I think is a fantastic thing. So last kind of background question, and we'll start talking a little bit about some of the players that are down in Fort Myers. And I'm sure it's a question you get often, but if you were to give advice to a high school kid or a kid early in college who thinks they want to be in sports broadcasting, or any kind of job in the professional sports world, what are some of the things you would advise them of? What types of classes should they be taking, and how do you go about making sure that it's something you really want to do?
Yeah, I would say do as much as you possibly can is kind of rule number one. You're going to have to work for free. You're going to have to work for minimum wage or less. So just come to that acceptance first, and then you've got a good shot. If you want to really be serious about it, definitely go to college for it. It's one of those degrees that you kind of have to have. There's a lot of different descriptions: communications, broadcasting, media. All of that is good. All of that applies. I was fortunate to go to Maryland, where we had 4 classes that were sports based. A couple of them were more writing based, and my writing skills have come in handy every single day with my career. So don't be afraid to do that sort of communication, because it fuels words, and it gets your brain thinking, as different types of language you can use on the air too. But my advice would be to try it all the time, whether you're on your couch at home playing MLB The Show, or if you're watching the Twins game. As much as we love listening to Corey, maybe flip it on mute for an inning and try it yourself. I would say the other thing is to know where to research. I think that's huge. If you know how to navigate Baseball Reference and MLB.com, and if you can get access to like a stats portal that MLB provides, Baseball Savant, all that stuff, there's more at your fingertips now than 30 years ago, where broadcasters had to go to the newspaper or actually go to the ballpark to learn about the teams and the players and the stats. I think there's so much more at your fingertips where you can teach yourself. The classes are important to kind of learn the industry and how the ins and outs of the different jobs and positions. But in terms of if you actually want to do play-by-play, you have to just do it. You have to be at home. You have to just call the game, and then obviously seek out whatever internships you can that'll put you on the air. And sometimes they won't put you on the air, and you've got to go to a side booth on your own and call some innings. And like I was lucky where some friends tipped me off on college summer ball, and I was able to find a couple of summer ball leagues of guys that were not even Division I caliber, basically D2 guys. And I had to, sit in a folding chair in the on deck circle and call a game for 2 years. And that was what made me so much better, to when I got to the University of Maryland as a junior and senior and got to travel with the team, I was prepared and ready. So yeah, for those, it's a grueling industry. It's a lot of fun too. Working to, or getting paid to watch sports is the best thing in the world. And definitely is competitive. So whatever you can do to get an edge, whether that's call games on your couch at 17 years old or get a summer ball gig at 20, if you want to get into broadcasting, you have to do it, and you kind of have to be ahead of the curve a little bit.
It's fantastic, and hopefully some will take some of that advice, and we make it even more competitive and get some good voices out there as well. All right, let's spend some time talking about the team. I mean, they're 13-20, but obviously, as we all know, especially in the lower levels of the minor leagues, it's all about player development, giving people opportunities, trying different positions, working on pitches, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about your team. And you mentioned guys from Division II level, and this week you guys got a huge spark from a guy in Peyton Eels, former 4 years at a Division II school, and then he went to Coastal Carolina for 1 year, put up huge numbers, and was pretty much deemed their leader. What kind of impact did he have on this team this last week? And tell us a little bit about Peyton Eels.
Yeah, it's huge impact. What an impression right away. You get a guy who's got the experience you mentioned, did nothing but perform. I think he hit like 370 every year of college or higher. Just commands the strike zone, swings at the right pitches, doesn't swing and miss, goes to all fields. He had 2 multi-hit games in the series. He drove in a couple of key runs. He scored the tying run on a sac fly that was pretty shallow on Sunday. We ended up losing that game, but that was a huge moment to get us back in it. So all the little things, he's shorthanded at second base, which is probably what we needed the most, was defense. And so he totally changed the complexion of the series against the Blue Jays this past week and allowed us to win 4 out of 6 after we had lost all the 6-game series leading up to this week. So it is fun to see how, if you get a mature 25-year-old who knows how to play the game, how they can just totally change a series, because obviously the average age in this league is 21. So to get an older guy is almost like a cheat code sometimes. They still got to actually do it, and he did it in a big way for us. So he's someone that, as long as he's here, is going to really positively impact the team for sure.
Another 25-year-old is Maddox Houghton. He's been kind of the offensive huge month in April. I know he slowed down here the last week or two, but again, tell us a little bit about Maddox Houghton and what he's brought to the squad.
Oh, he's a leader first and foremost. Everybody loves him. He's probably the most popular guy amongst our fans. He was here all of last year, which is always of benefit to guys when they come back, even though they don't want to be here for a second year. Everything's so much more comfortable for them when they are here for a second year. They know what to expect. They know the process they have to go through before the game to be fully prepared. And Maddox is a preparer. The game moves nice and slow for him at this level now. He's got great tools. He can fly on the base paths and in the outfield, makes all the right routes to balls defensively. And then at the plate now is really where we've seen the improvement, because he was a great defender last year too, but now he's starting to square up the ball more consistently, lay off pitches off the plate, and really just drive balls to all fields. He doesn't have a ton of natural power. He's got some, but he's hitting more doubles, more line drives to the gaps and over outfielders' heads this year. So the at-bats he's taken have been extremely professional, and the leadership he's provided has been so valuable for the Mussels.
And he was brought in before the 2023 season, spent most of the year with Fort Myers last year, kind of in a utility role, playing different positions in the outfield. This year, definitely getting some everyday playing time. Eels brought in as a minor league free agent. We talked a little bit before we went on recording here about the various minor league free agent signings. And the guy, I think that in the Twins Daily comments for minor league daily reports that's been coming up the most lately is Pancho Ruiz, another minor league signing last year, right after the draft. Tell us a little bit about him. I mean, he's done some catching, some first base, some DH. He's got some pop in his bat, no question about that. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that going into the season was kind of just another name to fill out the roster, and now all of a sudden he's one of our headliners, one of our best players. So it's been really fun to watch him exceed expectations. So he's a really interesting story. He grew up in Mexico, in Tijuana, right over the border from Southern California. And his parents thought it was in his best interest to attend a U.S. high school. So he got a scholarship to play at Mater Dei Catholic in San Diego. So he told me in our pregame show interview earlier this week that he would wake up at 4:30 in the morning every day, get in the car by 6 to make it to school on time, because you'd have to sit, not moving in traffic at the border to show your papers and then get to school. So it was quite a process that he went through for 3 years of high school. That opportunity got him a scholarship at San Diego State. He was actually one of the highest ranked catching prospects in the country by perfect game after his career at Mater Dei. And then went to San Diego State, played really well as their starter for 3 years. He said he had some interest to get drafted. There were some teams talking to him during the draft. It just didn't work out. And then the Twins jumped all over him as soon as the draft was over. So he was part of the draft class, even though he wasn't drafted, and was brought to Fort Myers in July of last year with all the other draft picks. But in terms of the on-field talent, it is very obvious. He's our best defensive catcher. He really handles himself well in all phases of the game. He's a great blocker. He's very sure-handed. He receives well. Pitchers like throwing to him. He can throw a little bit. And the bat has really surprised us with what he's been able to do. He's hitting well over 300, which in the Florida State League is an unbelievable accomplishment. The league average here is a 230 batting average, so he's about 100 points above it right now. Just a really sound approach. Like we said with Eels, he doesn't swing and miss very often. He's at least fouling balls off when he gets to 2 strikes. He's got more walks than strikeouts right now, which I don't think anybody else on our team can say that. Like I said, all fields. And then all of a sudden this past week against Dunedin, he showed us the power that we didn't know was in there. He had a lot of doubles, but not many home runs. And he had a multi-home run game on the series opener on Tuesday and hit them out to center field at Hammond Stadium, which is a long ways, especially in the hot, thick air with the wind usually blowing in here. Not an environment where we see many home runs, and he hit 2 in one game. So I think he's definitely made some swing adjustments in the 6 or 7 weeks of the season so far. And he's someone to really watch, because we know catchers that can defend play a long time in the minor leagues and usually make the majors. So I think he's someone that the Twins did a great job finding real talent outside of the first 20 rounds.
Absolutely. New to the organization this year, came over in the Manny Margot deal. Noah Miller going to the Dodgers, but coming over to the Twins is a guy that had a rough season last year as a 19-year-old in the league. He's repeating low A, but he's definitely come on, and you're gonna have to pronounce it for me. Rain Doncon. Tell us about him. He's got 10 doubles, 4 home runs already. Just seeing pictures, I mean, dude looks the part of big league infielder.
He does. Twins Pro Scouting Department gets a huge hat tip on this one, because they probably asked for him as a throw-in. It was Noah Miller for Margot. Obviously, Miller's got great long-term value as a great shortstop, but Don Cohn has some big-time tools. I'm sure the change of scenery has done him some good, getting out of a really stacked system with LA. Really talented guy, super strong, really polished hitter. I was impressed by how advanced his at-bats have been. Major power to the pull side. He leads us with 4 home runs. You mentioned the doubles. I love doubles hitters. He leads us in doubles. He led the league in doubles for most of the week. Really put together prospect. He hit double, even though he did struggle last year in the California League. He did have 14 home runs. So he's got some big power for such a young guy. He's only 20 years old. So he's someone that I expect to finish the year in Cedar Rapids, and is going to be someone to keep an eye on. Sometimes change of scenery is a huge deal for players. And at a young age with Don Cohn, I think it's served him well and kind of unlocked some ability to play every day and play at a high level every day.
We won't spend much time on Walker Jenkins. He had 1 at bat and then he was out, and I mean, no real updates on him at this point, other than he's got the hamstring and he's working his way back. If you have more than that, let us know. But I also want to talk about Brandon Winokur, who was the early round pick last year, I think 3rd round out of high school in California. Great athlete, tall, lanky, power potential, all those kind of things. But at the same time, I'm just as curious about how he's doing defensively, playing shortstop. I think he's maybe got a few innings at third base. He's played a lot of center field and a little bit of right field. Just, I mean, what an athlete. But obviously very young. So, what are some of the adjustments he's making too?
Yeah, so no update really on Walker. He's definitely working to come back. It's definitely not a a super serious injury, but something that we're hopeful we'll get him back soon. With Winokur, I've been super impressed, super impressed. I mean, he's 19 years old. The numbers are solid. He's batting around 250 with an OPS over 700, which is the league average. So the physical traits are certainly there. He got a lot of overslot money he went in the third round, but he basically got first round money, 1.5 million. So he's someone that had a strong commitment to UCLA. Twins really wanted him. They were able to get him. The four positions you outlined perfectly, that's where he's been playing. A lot of the scouts going into the draft viewed him as an outfielder. I would say I agree with that. He looks better in the outfield, I would say. He's made some plays at shortstop where he looks like a natural shortstop, but being long and lanky, having to kind of bend down and go get balls in the hole, it takes him a little while to uncoil and make the throw. So he might be more of an outfielder long term, but he definitely can play the infield. And there's still a long time before that decision has to be made as to where he plays in the big leagues. But the bat has impressed me. He swung and missed at a ton of sliders the first 2 weeks of the season and has immediately turned that around. And either, if he's expecting a fastball and gets a slider, he'll swing and miss. But if he's sitting on a slider, he can hit it. If he's sitting on a fastball, he can really hit it. And he's able to lay off pitches outside the zone more than he did those first couple of weeks. So just the fact that we're seeing, adjustments that sometimes take guys a year or 2 years to make, and he's making it in a month, to me is a really good sign that not only is he physically talented, but he's able to make the mental adjustments early in his professional career to have success. So he's someone that is really worth tracking. If you're a Twins fan, it might take him 3 or 4 years to really be a factor for a major league team, but he's already, I would say, ahead of schedule.
And I already said that we'd try to stick to 20 minutes, but there are a few guys I'd like to talk about on the pitching side. And there are a few hitters that I'd love to talk about more. A couple 19-year-olds, guys like Jose Rodriguez, who also has 4 home runs. Byron Chorio, who I think when he's on is a really good leadoff type of a hitter. But we can talk about him in a future show. I want to talk a little bit about pitching in this last couple of weeks. Cesar Lares has been unreal. He had 5 or 6 no-hit innings in his previous start, and then last week, during the week, he had a start where he gave up 2 home runs to the first 3 batters, and then struck out 11 over 5 innings. And that's making an adjustment pretty quick as well. But tell us, Lars, left-handed, not a big guy. He's pretty young. What do you know about him?
Yeah, he's other than Pancho, he's probably the guy that's come off the radar and impressed me the most. Those are the 2 guys that Twins fans probably didn't hear about until the last few weeks, and now they are really legit prospects. Laris, I like a lot. He's lefty, which is always a plus. He's about 6 foot 170, so he's lanky. He's starting to fill out and add velocity, which is huge. I think he's got a long way to go in terms of adding more velocity. Right now, he started the year 90-91. He's already up to 92. He's touched 93. I think it's going to continue to tick up. He only signed 2 years ago at 18 years old. So he, at 16 and 17, teams were not willing to give him a contract. And at 18, the Twins were. And now at 20, he's blossoming into a real starting pitching prospect. He's got 4 pitches. The curveball, he was mostly fastball curveball last year in the complex. Curveball was in the 70s, 74, 75 miles an hour, but it was such a hammer of a pitch that it worked. This year, he's implemented a slider, and it's taken him to a whole nother level, primarily because he can locate it to righties. So he's able to back foot or back knee the righties with it, which is a weapon. It's about 84, and it sweeps across the entire zone, and has been a difference maker for him. He mixes in a changeup, too, that gets good movement. He's still working on the command of it. But he's got four real pitches that he can get whiffs with. And what my favorite thing about him, though, is just his attitude. He's got some serious attitude on the mound, competitive, high energy, stomps around, will fire himself up between batters. And to me, that's for a guy like him that's a little undersized. I think that's so important. Kind of a little, not quite to the extent of, Marco Raya, kind of similar body type, similar attitude. I think Marco maybe a little less showy than Loris. Loris can really get after it out there, and we like that about him. So he's someone that I think is really worth watching. He's a character in the clubhouse. Guys like him. And I think he's going to really raise some eyebrows this year. I think you'll see him in plenty of top 30s next year.
Two more pitchers I'll talk about, and then I'll let you go here. Number one, I can't not talk about Charlie Soto. Dude's huge. It's been really one of the great things about, again, you guys having live video now this year is watching him pitch. And, you see him from the back, from the center field camera. I mean, dude looks like a pitcher. He's got the thick legs, the wiry delivery. I mean, he looks like he's got it all in terms of the future. Struggled a little bit with command, control, things like that. Yeah, I mean, he's 19 or 18. You would expect that. So, the numbers may not look great, but I can't imagine there's a higher ranking prospect he's got to be right up there with anyone in the league.
Yes. The numbers are only his ERA is in the 4s, which isn't terrible, but the numbers aren't where you would want them to be because of one bad start in Bradenton. All of his other starts have been really good. Twins are limiting him to no more than 4 innings right now, but he's been good. He's been really good, actually. His maturity has impressed me. I think one thing I've been telling a lot of scouts when they ask me about these high school picks, Jenkins, Winokur, and Soto, extremely mature for their age. They had sights on being a pro when they were really young. And so they're exactly where they're supposed to be, exactly where they wanted to be. So they're handling this situation as well as you can for their age. Soto's stuff is electric. He's up to 98. He sits 95, 96. He's got 5 pitches. What I didn't realize about him going into the season that has really caught my attention is how good the changeup is. It is easily a plus changeup, if not better. And he's able to get a lot of whiffs against the lefties with it. So that's something I didn't really know about coming in. He's worked on a sweeper. He's worked on a 2-seamer. He's really become a 5-pitch guy. They're limiting his innings right now. Obviously, like you said, the command can come and go at times. The one bad outing against Bradenton has really hurt the numbers. There was some bad defense in that game. Some plays that were hits that the defense still wasn't quite there. So if you take that luck factor out of it, he's probably got an ERA in the 3s with a really strong strikeout to walk ratio right now. And he might be raising some more eyebrows numbers wise, but he's going to be really interesting to track. I would assume he spends the whole year down here with us as they keep a really close eye on his innings and his pitches. But he definitely has, major league starter written all over him down the road.
You mentioned the start against Bradenton, but even the last week, I think he threw 3 shutout innings to start the game and then gave up or was charged with 2 or 3 in that 4th inning that, I think came off of they were inherited and scored on the reliever. But so, yeah, he's been exciting. All right, last question as it relates to the players. And, again, like last year, they drafted a lot of college guys. Last year's class was incredible with Zebby Matthews, Andrew Morris, Corey Lewis. Your list goes on and on. They drafted a lot of similar pitchers. I don't think to this point there's been kind of a breakout guy. Tanner Hall's been hurt a little bit. Jeremy Lee has kind of been on the IL a couple of times. But one guy I'd like to just talk about before we even get into the other guys. I know I think Ross Dunn was your opening night starter, so he's one to talk about as well. But Ty Langenberg, those in Cedar Rapids listening to this will be very intrigued. I know even when I was there earlier this year, they were already getting forward to him coming back. He went to the University of Iowa, which of course is 20 minutes away from Cedar Rapids. He's been much better the last couple of starts. I think he had a really good start this last week. So tell us a little bit about Langenberg, and we'll close out there.
Yeah, he's a sinker slider guy, throws a lot of strikes. He's very durable. He's gone 5 innings or more in every outing so far. So you're right. He's gotten a lot better as the season's gone along. I think the slider's gotten tighter and more consistent. He had a shutout outing his last time out against Dunedin. So he's really taken some big steps forward. He's only walked 5 guys in 26 innings, which is always a huge plus. But really all those college guys are interesting. You're right. We don't quite have that group of 4 guys like we had last year with Matthews, Lewis, Culpepper and Morris, who I think all will pitch in the big leagues at some point. It's not quite as slam dunky this year with guys that we are, they're still developing. It's just going to take a little more seasoning on some of these guys. But the ones you mentioned are definitely interesting. Paul-Sean Pasqualato's got really good stuff. I'm looking at the list now. Jeremy Lee, his breaking pitches are as good as you'll ever see. He's gotten better as the season's gone along. I really like what Jeremy could be in the future. Ross Dunn looks the part. He just looks like a big league starting pitcher, just size-wise, stuff-wise, poise on the mound. He's someone to definitely keep an eye on. And I'll give you a couple names out of the bullpen, too, that I think are interesting. Xander Hamilton has good stuff. He's had some tough numbers early in the season. He's had a couple outings where he didn't have his control. But when he's on, he's got major league caliber stuff. And the other one is Nolan Santos, who is a 7th-round pick, but got under slot money to help sign guys like Winokur. Santos has the makings of 4 real pitches. His fastball is probably the worst one. It's only 91, 92. But his off speeds are as polished and as consistent as I've seen at this level. He's got a curveball, slider, and changeup, which are easily distinguishable. And because of that and because of his command, he's up to 25 strikeouts in 17 2/3 innings and an ERA in the 2s. So he's someone that, will likely end up in Cedar Rapids. And I think is interesting because I don't think he's necessarily a 1-inning guy moving forward. I think he can be stretched out into a 2 or 3 inning guy. And continue to get outs because, if you're a scout, you kind of like him because of how distinguishable all 4 pitches are.
All right. That's fantastic. And like I said, hopefully we can do this every couple of weeks and get an update on how those pitchers are doing. Twins have definitely had a lot of success with guys on day 2 and day 3 of the draft, really going back to 2019 when you got, Varland and 2018, you had Winder and Sands and, even Bailey Ober in the 12th round in 2017 or 2017. So it's going to be interesting, but you've got an interesting team to watch, a good group of 19 and 20-year-olds and a bunch of the veterans that are kind of the glue guys at this point. So look forward to catching up with you, and I really appreciate you doing this today.
Yes, thank you so much, Seth. We appreciate that all you and Twins Daily do to help publicize the prospects. We appreciate it.
Well, they deserve to be talked about, especially with the work they're doing without a lot of recognition. So hopefully we can get that to them. With that, I appreciate your time. Again, it's been John Vittas of the Fort Myers Mighty Mussels, and check back to Twins Daily. We'll hopefully be doing a lot more of these. So have yourselves a great week, and go Twins and go Mighty Mussels.